Hello and welcome to Listen Up, your pre-show talk. I'm Dale Jarvis, your virtual folklorist these days, interviewing people, and we're delighted to have Frank Fusari with us to start off. Frank, what's it been like to get back to work with the NSO?
Well, in a nutshell, it's been great. I mean, it was a very quiet summer for most musicians, and everyone was really happy to hear that the Symphony had a plan to go ahead, and very well thought out plan, and so far things are going great. So it feels really great to be back. It feels great to be playing again. Absolutely.
So can you give us a little bit of an introduction to the concerto that's part of the Sinfonia tonight?
Yes, absolutely. So the composer's name is Cimador, and he was an Italian composer. He lived at the time of Mozart. I think his dates are 1781 to 1605. So just the last half of the 17th century there. And he was a classical composer, not really a household name. But one thing about this concerto is that he wrote this specifically for a bass player named Dragonetti, who was a very famous Italian bass player. Sometimes he's referred to as the Paganini of double bass. He was a virtuoso. He played a three-string bass. A lot of the music that he played, he wrote himself. And he was a household name definitely back then. And so I think Cimador's claim to fame is that this concerto was written specifically for Dragonetti. Something else about this concerto is, as you listen to it, you might think that it sounds a little bit like Mozart. And there's a reason for that. Cimador loved Mozart. He loved his music. They both lived at the same time in different parts of Europe. But Cimador, other than being known for this bass concerto, he's also known for taking Mozart symphonies and condensing them into quartets and quintets. So, and he didn't just do this for a couple of Mozart symphonies. He did this for a lot of them, a dozen or something like that. So I feel that he was really intimately knowledgeable about Mozart's writing style, and anything that you listen to by him sort of has that sort of classical Mozart kind of a sound to it. So it was a real pleasure to play this concerto as well.
Do you have a favorite moment or aspect of the piece as a performer?
Oh, many, I think. Yeah. Probably most notably is this concerto is a little bit different than your typical usual concerto. Usually the soloist will sit in front of the orchestra, and just think of your typical concerto. The orchestra will play for a couple of minutes before the soloist does anything. This is normally how it goes. And as the soloist is sitting there, the orchestra is introducing all of the themes, musical themes, that the soloist is going to elaborate on later. What Cimador did was he just had this instinctive way of writing for bass, this way of really getting at what the bass is good at, what sounds best on bass. So he did something unusual. He put the tutti part he wrote it right into the solo part. So as the concerto starts, right off the bat, you're playing the orchestral tutti part with the rest of the orchestra. And you can really notice this in the concerto at the beginning and at the end of the first movement. But it also sort of happens all through the movement as well. He writes a soloistic line, and all of a sudden you find yourself gravitating back towards the low notes. And so you'll be playing a solo, and then suddenly you're part of the tutti section. And then you're playing a solo, and then suddenly you're part of the tutti section. So it's almost like there's this force dragging you back to where you belong. It's like come back to the bass section, you know. And so it's just a really nice concerto in the sense that you still feel like you're part of the orchestra as well. You don't feel like, I'm the soloist and the orchestra supporting me. It's all sort of a big team effort. So I think that was my favorite part of this whole concerto.
Well, I think that's a fantastic introduction to both the piece and some great listening notes for the audience tonight. Thanks a lot, Frank.
Great. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you. Next up, we have Steve Power, who is the NSO's production manager and video production editing wizard. Steve, you had a busy spring, summer, fall, and now we're into these online concerts. Can you tell me a bit about the recording process and how it's all going?
Sure. Yeah, it's going really well. It's going along like a freight train, actually. I mean, it's when we first decided that we would actually move on to the digital scene, it was a difficult transition to find all the equipment and everything we needed to do it, because we apparently weren't the only ones in the country that were looking to buy cameras and tripods and ball heads for various stands and stuff. And I was hours and hours, days actually, scouring the internet. I was phoning all these local camera stores and everything all over the country. I ended up buying most of my cameras from a place in Montreal called Excellent Photo. But yeah, once we got that under control, and then we got about 4 cameras, and I have one of my own cameras that I add on there. And then when we're at the Arts and Culture Center, we add another camera that they have there. So I have 6 cameras rolling, and the orchestra basically plays through the concert as if, the audience was there. And that's why we want so many cameras, because I don't want to take multiple takes and cameras moving around, because that's not the idea. The idea here is to capture a concert that isn't happening because there's no audience. So the cameras become the audience, and yeah, they just run right through it. So I get Steve Lilly from Mountain Fortress Audio. He's with Memorial School of Music, and he comes over with his expertise and hangs all of his microphones, and he does the audio for me. And then he just sends me a big audio track, and I put all my cameras together and cut back and forth between the angles and try to capture, the best sort of experience that we can without breaking the bank, basically.
Yeah. So what are you learning through this whole process?
I'm learning a lot. There's a lot of information right back from when the cameras weren't available to the restrictions that were put on us wherever we went. I mean, we did our rehearsals at the Delta. Delta were great, but I mean, we had to all register. We all had to sign in every time. We had to socially distance down there, and we had to use our plastic barriers and our what we call our spit kits, which are basically little trays for the horns and the winds to sort of clean their instruments out in, because you can't be spitting everywhere. that's absolutely a big no-no right now. So one of the other things I learned is that normally shooting an orchestra with a camera is easy. You can point it anywhere, and there's 15 beautiful people playing a beautiful instrument. Now we have 8 feet of space between each player, and not every shot is a winner. So you can set up your camera and have a look and realize there's a 4-foot gap right in the center of your shot. Like, oh my gosh, never had to deal with this before. So, yeah, there's a lot of shifting around to find the best angle. Try to include as many players as you can, which is proving to be, a trick. So I ended up buying some new stands that go a little higher, so I can get them inside and get them up. These are things that you can't really foresee until you get in on the stage. Yeah, it's difficult.
Any excuse to get new toys is always a good.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything that makes my life easier is like, Hugh, I'm going to need this, please. He's like, just go get it. Stop telling me what it is. Just get it. Whatever it is. That's pretty good.
Excellent. Well, thanks for this, Steve.
Hey, thank you, Dale. Congratulations on your new book, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, can't wait to get it. See you later.
See you.